Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Rob, how are you doing?
Well, aside from the fact that the power was blown in the Rob Observatory, which has been an ongoing problem for the last week, I came in here and nothing worked.
Oh, no.
I think that certain plug outlets are not working. It might have been an effect of the ongoing rain here, the atmospheric rivers. The reason we're running a little late is because, there's power in the laptop, to be honest.
Okay.
But not in the lights, not in the not in my modem, or not my link to the outside world.
So you're running like off of your cell phone today?
No, well, the power's come on.
Okay.
But I don't know. I switched some plugs around. I went out and I don't know.
You're on a emergency power only, or
I'm like when Scotty
life support
when
only?
Scotty Christmas treed up the USS Constellation in the Doomsday Machine. That's where the Rob Observatory is right now. I just hope that we're not going to get hit by that energy weapon coming out of the pure deuteronium.
We're diverting all power to life support just to
I swear to God,
keep things going.
Or at least all power to keep my coffee warm. That's all that matters.
Sounds good.
So here we are. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, welcome to all of our PGS members. Welcome to this a special Sunday edition of the Members Only Chat. I know
with Dieter Bastian not here because his work schedule changed.
And yesterday there was a puppy related business to take care of yesterday, right? So
we took all 8 puppies to the Loma Linda Animal Hospital, all 8.
Wow.
And got them all their shots because they're 6 weeks old.
Got it.
So they got vaccinated.
Yeah. Well,
on their way to leaving us, to selling them into, hopefully, to give them to great homes, because every day they spend here is a day that I become more attached.
That's hard. It's hard to say goodbye to those puppies, I'm sure.
And there's 8 of them. There's 5 girls and 3 boys, and they're all beautiful dogs, and they're so sweet. We've been pre-potty training them, taking them outside and playing with them, let them run around in the backyard.
That's awesome.
They're going to be quite well-adjusted pups.
They look adorable. I love following their journey on Instagram.
They're too adorable. That's the problem. I'm thinking we could keep these. I'm like, then there would be 11 dogs here. Wow. 11.
Yeah.
Well, why not just make 10 that much louder? Well, we have 11. We have 11.
Rob, do you have prospective buyers?
No. As a matter, and they're expensive, to be honest.
Sure.
The whole reason we bred the dogs was they're F1B Irish doodles.
Yeah.
And that means they're 25% Irish setter, 75% purebred poodle. They're absolutely beautiful dogs. They're chocolatey, goldeny brown, and their dispositions they're very, very sweet. They've been socialized around we have 3 pretty big dogs.
Uh-huh.
And the puppies are no longer scared of them.
Yeah.
They'll stand up and be like, daddy dog Sebastian has been teaching them how to play, which is what I did a lot of research. So the father dog, is his role to play is he does teach the puppies how to interact, how to play.
Socialize.
It's been pretty it's been pretty funny because he's a puppy himself. He's only 14 months old. No, he's 15 months old this month. He's born January 20th of 2022.
Yeah.
So he's just having a ball. I feel like I should be filming every moment of these dogs, but then I have to relive it when they're gone.
I know.
Maybe it's best that I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, people are desperate to get in here and start asking questions. A couple of caveats today. Rob has a hard out at 2 p.m., I believe.
2:15.
2:15 Pacific time.
I got 3 hours instead of like 7.
So we're gonna
only because I promised to go on a British podcast.
Oh, on a British podcast. Great. Yeah. And then we've got, so we're going to be restricting time a little bit shorter than usual. We're going to do more like 5 minutes instead of 7. And we may not get to everybody's questions today just because of, again.
But I'll be doing observations later tonight. So come on. Come aboard.
Come on and chat there as well.
Oh, I'm expecting you.
Exactly.
Observations. Soon we'll be leaving, and
soon we'll be out on the internet.
Observations.
All right, so we're ready to
Set a course
admit
for adventure, your mind on a new romance.
We've got 27 members joining us in the Zoom call. I'm going to go ahead and do the honors here and let them all in at once. So here we go. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I do that, let me just make
Rob,
sure.
exciting and new.
Here we go, Rob.
This is terrible. This must end now. It's really bad.
Rob's favorite
Demonetized.
Here we go. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
It's my favorite, the cascade of faces.
The waterfall effect here of everybody coming in. We still have a few more folks joining us. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Welcome, everybody. Let me go ahead and make sure that I pin some folks here as well. Now I can't find Rob, of course. Where did I put you, Rob? Here you are. Let me go ahead and pin you.
Oh my God.
There you are. Okay.
In a world
and
where one man and one gecko lizard is all that stands between humanity.
Rob, we got folks. Like I said, folks, we're going to be keeping it to a little bit shorter time because Rob is a little bit more scrapped for time. So please be concise with your comments.
Oh my God.
That goes for Rob too, right?
Oh yeah. I'll keep my comments to a minimum.
And we're going to start things off with Stubble McShay because he had emailed me ahead of time saying he really needed, has a very tight schedule today. So apologies if you're
What's up, Stub?
We're going to go ahead.
Our favorite Swede.
And let Stubble join in up first. So
we got a favorite. And you know what? Can I just point out who's still here with us? Fernando Barrero is here.
Oh, I added Tom. What did I do? My
God, Fernando, how's your mom?
Come on. The wrong person.
Got it.
How did
Fernando's mom is okay.
Why is Tom Jr. Jackson here and not?
He's on the bridge.
He is.
He's on the classic bridge, the real bridge, not that fake Vegas bridge they have in Strange New Worlds.
Okay, so let me.
Oh wait, what?
Wait, what's going on?
What'd I say?
I have a mess going on here. Let me
We got Joey Hamilton with some badass glasses.
Okay, hold on, because I'm having some technical difficulties here, Rob. For some reason, I cannot get.
I had technical difficulties my whole life, but everything seems to still work, which is amazing.
Let me
fantastic.
Remove pin. Okay, there we go. I don't know what's happening. Let me go ahead and add Stubble. There's Stubble. Okay, and Stubble, you should be able to unmute now. Are you able to? Sorry about that.
You can't unmute.
I unmuted.
No, we can hear you.
No.
Oh no, we can. You know what? We can hear. We can hear
SA
Thigpen.
This is crazy. I'm sorry. I think it's because the system is still loading people in. Let me see. There we go. We got you, Stubble. I'm sorry about that.
God, in a world where Stubble McShay
I will get out of the way
from Sweden.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. We got Israelis, we got Swedes, we got people from Northern California.
Yeah,
which is kind of like a foreign country.
I have a hard out in a few minutes, so
that's what she said.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say a thing there, but I won't. Anyway.
Brother?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We are limited to 5 minutes today, so hope everything is fine.
It's all good. You just say, I just have to leave in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because I promised these dudes from the UK I'd go on their podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a TV series that I watched like 30 years ago. And, I don't buy the new versions of everything that comes out. So I bought this about 15 years ago. Started watching it again.
And did you get to the Sonny Burnett episodes? Come on, man. You know how good those are. Yeah. Sonny Crockett takes on the Sonny Burnett. That's a drug dealing alias, and he loses his mind, so he thinks he's Burnett for real. Those 4 episodes, takes over the Miami underworld, becomes a murderer. The greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
No, I'm just on the first season. I guess it's later on when they.
That's season 4. I think it's season 3, season 4.
Yeah, but the music rights must have been pretty expensive. It's like the MTV Movie Awards or
That's
something.
why it took so long for Miami Vice to come out on Blu-ray, because they had to, and they did spend the money, unlike shows like Wise Guy where they didn't. But yeah, the music rights for Miami Vice were a nightmare. As a matter of fact, I wish somebody would write an article or something. I mean, because, you know, when we made Free Enterprise, when you get music rights for things, you can get what are called festival rights. So when I was editing Free Enterprise, I put all of my favorite 80s songs in the movie. And they were, when we started showing the movie at film festivals, we had what were called festival rights, which means that you can show the movie with songs in it at film festivals. But then if the movie is ever purchased for distribution, you then have to pay for new rights. And when we went to pay for new rights, the music rights cost more than the movie itself. So I had to strip almost everything out of the film. And and that's happened like when John Carpenter's The Thing first came out on home video in 83. They used Stevie Wonder's song Superstition. Knowles is playing it in the kitchen when he says, which one of you men put your dirty drawers in the kitchen trash can? And they couldn't put it in the home video version. And it wasn't until years later where they were able to restore Superstition to The Thing. And that was true of also Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because back in the day, nobody thought to negotiate home video rights, which was a whole different thing. And like shows like Miami Vice, they never thought there was no home video, or there was movies, but no one ever thought that people would buy box sets of TV shows. So yeah, that was a big problem. And some shows have never had their songs restored.
No. But speaking of music from the 80s and so on, I mentioned on a super chat the other day, or a tip, that 24 Nights, the Clapton concert, would have a theatrical release in I think 17th May, and it was Dolby restored. And I don't know if anyone is a fan of Clapton here, but I think he's not my favorite, but he's pretty okay also.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and it doesn't play here, but I guess it's play in your neighborhood.
I'd love to go. I wasn't able to get tickets to the IMAX screening of Picard's finale this week. Awesome. I sat there, and even though I've been, I couldn't. I tried. That was never let in to get the tickets.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So I'll leave it out there for people to check it out if they're interested. Just giving you the information. But I don't know if you now changing subjects here. I read in Deadline that they are going to edit, or they have edited P.G. Wodehouse, the Jeeves and Wooster.
Are you kidding? For content?
I think it's pretty limited editing, but they have edited out words and so on. And
wow.
There was not any details that I could see. It just said that it was edited. So.
Wow, that's distressing. Jeeves and Wooster was edited. Wow, that I have to tell you, it's incredible to me that we have descended into a fascist dystopia over a period of just a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about editing things like that is, when did we become so soft-skinned? And this idea that words are violence, and oh my God, I'm so triggered. I'm like, oh my God, all of you should be in a foxhole. Let's draft everybody and put them in a war situation. You'll toughen up yourselves real fast. I mean, it's terrifying to me that editorial changes like this in language is happening, because what it does is it immediately says that we're too stupid and immature to deal with our own history. And if we can't experience our own history head on and be mature enough about it to understand these are things that happened in the past, what does that say about our future? Because the future needs tough people, serious-minded people. And if we can't handle hearing a word from the past without freaking out or being triggered, our future is bleak indeed, because we all have a very tough future to deal with. And that's really, wow, Jeeves and Wooster being edited. Gross.
Yeah, use it as an opportunity for learning and to contextualize rather than to hide it. I mean, I just don't understand the rationale.
Unacceptable prose. So what Stubble was talking about is, this is Bruce Herring. This dropped today, an hour ago. Actually, not even an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. Penguin Random House has altered what it termed the unacceptable prose of author P.G. Wodehouse in new editions of his classic Jeeves and Wooster series. The publisher also warned readers of outdated terms in the revamped works, the Sunday Telegraph reported. Publishers have recently been changing older classic works by such authors as Roald Dahl and Ian Fleming to reflect current sensibilities. The changes have been condemned as some by ruining the original visions of the authors. Condemned by some, they should be condemned by all. Original visions, how about the fact that these people lived in a certain time and a place? And what I think is really gross is there are people that are actually saying these things are problematic, let's change them. Mm-hmm. They're the problem. Make no mistake, this is fascism. It's ideological fascism. And where does it end? These are people that should never be allowed to near a literary property. Mm-hmm. They're going in the wrong direction. All of these people, I mean, I hate them all. I cannot tell you how disgusting I find this, because this is just books. Mm-hmm. There's a small line. I mean, look, as a Jew, let me just say, when I was growing up going to Sunday school every Sunday and Tuesday, how many people did I meet with green numbers on their wrists? And they were the ones that survived. We're not very far away from that. And wanting to change books, that's what Hitler did. Degenerate art, burning books, destroying art.
How do we learn about our progress as a society if we don't have those things to learn from? Right?
We're not making our progress. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we're going backwards. Yeah. And it's really gross and it's dismaying. And I'll tell you, this is what is worth. You know, people talk about we need to have a Second Amendment. We need to have a Second Amendment to protect our ideological growth more than anything else. And it shouldn't be guns. It should be something. It should be our brains. That's what should be firing, is our intellect. Yeah. And we should be ever vigilant about this, because it's and by the way, this is new. You know, they've always tried to ban books, but it's new that they're rewriting texts and thinking that's okay. Yeah. Because people are like, oh, why should you care? I'll tell you why you should care. Because 70 years ago, 12 million people, 6 million Jews and 6 million others. The other 6 million are never spoken of. 12 million people were put into extermination machines and liquidated across Europe. Mm-hmm. And that was, some people are still alive, not many, but we should be ever vigilant. And this is how it begins. Make no mistake.
And it's across all ends of the spectrum. On the one hand, you've got people banning books, and on the other hand, you've got people rewriting them. It's like we're not.
And at the same time, other realities, words, pronouns, the very things that we use to define us are being changed from under us. Mm-hmm. And the question is why? Who's doing this? Who's funding it? Who wants it to happen? And there's a reason why it's all happening across a wide spectrum of many different parts of our lives. Make no mistake, it's pernicious and dangerous, and it's happening. Jeeves and Wooster. And that's the thing. People are like, oh, who cares if you change children's books like Roald Dahl? Who cares if you change Ian Fleming? It's James Bond, Flights of Fantasy, Jeeves and Wooster. Until it becomes history books, until it becomes actual reality, it's all the same thing. Anyway.
All right.
This gets my goat. Sorry if everyone's all triggered now.
Maybe it gets Joey Hamilton's goat. Joey has been waiting patiently. Welcome, Joey. Looks like he's.
Those are some badass glasses, dude.
Yeah, they're just blue light canceling.
Oh, nice.
What if the book made it clear that they changed the name, though, right? You know, like a TV edit. Like if it was clear that this is a sanitized version of it, so that we don't even have to go about that. But it was clear that it was a new work.
I still think that's because the thing is the author didn't do it himself.
Isn't that the same with the TV edit though? Like in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, there's that one scene where there's a lot of swearing, and the TV edit they like put in other words. You know,
I mean,
so technically changing it.
But here's the thing: a TV edit was only ever broadcast on television. In 100 years, who's going to know which book has changed or not?
That's well, I said if it was clear on the cover that it was a different.
No, they won't make it clear.
Well, I'm saying hypothetically, obviously.
I still think it's wrong. I mean, a TV edit, I hated TV edits as well, because what that also said was the same thing. We're too stupid. I mean, I get it. You don't want to hear swearing and violence on primetime TV. I understand the impulse. But the fact is, our culture, our civilization is being so dumbed down. And look, I often think that we need an asteroid strike. We need a deep impact moment or an Armageddon moment to toughen up our entire civilization. And by the way, it's not the whole rest of the world. It's America. Make no mistake. I mean, even though Jeeves and Wooster, but it's the Western world. And this is, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, because just follow the money. Every conspiracy is about money and control and power. It's all the same bullshit. But we are under ideological, intellectual, we're under attack, and it's an attack every single day, and it is designed. They can't, America militarily, no one can defeat us, but our civilization is being, make no mistake, picked apart daily. Our you know, I've never seen in my entire life, I've never seen, you know, that all the lessons in life are in the movie The Godfather. What is one lessons you learn in The Godfather? Never let anyone outside the family know what you're thinking. Because if you see dissent in the family, that means there's weakness. America is broadcasting its weakness to the world on a daily basis. All of these ridiculous fights that we are in are broadcasting a weakness to the world. We are being picked apart on a daily basis. And these kinds of things are the basis of it all. Let's attack the underlying foundational principles of the United States. The first one of those things is freedom of speech. Our own population, our young people want to, we don't need freedom of speech. Those words are violence. Are they? You haven't seen violence. It's coming. I'm just saying, editing books. I mean, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. All of these things have been prophesized by people smarter than me for hundreds of years, and we are seeing it, and now we're just allowing it to happen. And it's frustrating to watch because we were warned. So
no, I hear you. I would agree with you.
I mean, look, and again, I am not some, crazy conspiracy theorist, because you don't have to be. It's actually happening. We have people that want to give up freedom of speech because they say words are violence. I feel bad. It makes me feel bad. I don't want to hear these words. And if I hear these words, oh my God, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That is, to me, that is, you talk about privilege. The most privileged position you could possibly be in is to say that words are violence. When you're equating language to violence, talk about privilege. Give me a fucking break. I mean, we really need to step it up and stop talking nonsense, because we are being picked apart on a daily basis. And because no one can beat us militarily. But I mean, my God, with the divides in this country, one day someone's just going to walk in. I mean, I'm talking en masse, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the Russians, the Iranians, call it whoever you want. They're just going to walk into the country and say, what are you going to do? We'll walk into Portland because we can take that city over in a second, right, Roberto? I mean, it's terrifying to see, and no one's doing anything about it. Every day, how many books are going to have to be changed before people stop and go, perhaps this isn't a good idea?
I would have thought Roald Dahl would have gotten more people up in arms, because that really was
because nobody cares.
Well,
they don't, because
I think they care for like a day, and then then life goes on and they just stop thinking about it. But
we have a whole generation of people, and I'm part of them, that are on the internet where they themselves are their own protagonists. It used to be like we were a society where you had to love literature, to love art. That means you had to look out beyond yourself. You had to look out into the world and go, that's important. That means something. My life is not defined by likes on TikTok. My life is defined by what I go out and seek, whether it's walking across a landscape, whether it's traveling, whether it's having an experience I've never had before. Now we have a whole generation of people where it's all coming to them. They don't have to leave their house. And that leaves them very vulnerable to any kind of ideological manipulation that you want to beam into their phones. And and again, I sound like a crazy Ted Kaczynski guy living in a cabin, but I'm watching it happen. I mean, I watched all my dystopian sci-fi films as a kid. I could have told you when I was 12 years old. I read Fahrenheit 451. Ray Bradbury talked about this. It's right here in this book that was written before I was born. And that was a science fiction novel.
All right, before I go, Rob, throw me a bone. Last time I'm going to bring this up. You're singing guys. Now, I understand as a musician, Prince over Elvis, but we're talking a pure vocalist. I think Elvis is above Prince on that. So how can you sit him as a background singer? That's my thing.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that Elvis
Elvis, vocalist.
Now you don't think
guitar, no other instruments.
You don't think that Prince had more of a range? Because he could sing falsetto if he had to.
The vibrato of Elvis, though, that's the guy I would want leading my band if I could, just as a singer, not total music talent.
Okay. You're asking me to pick between Prince and Elvis. I just want to point out, okay, that on right here, you can't see him because I've got Wade is there, but I have Prince next to Elvis. Elvis is behind on my shelf on my band, and you're asking me to pick. I would say this. I mean, I understand Elvis has a certain kind of a voice that is unmistakable, and depending on what kind of band that you want, Prince, though, I mean, he could sing in many different ranges. It's tough call, and I can't deny Elvis's power. That's why he's on my shelf. But you will never get me to say that Prince is anything other than the greatest populist musician of all time. He can sing. If he needed to sing exactly like Elvis, he probably could, but he doesn't have to because he's fucking Prince. That's what I'm saying. I know.
To put this argument to rest, we could do a Star Trek Voyager episode where Prince and Elvis get mixed up in the transporter and it becomes pelvis. Anyway.
Well, you know what though? That would actually be. I would watch that. Prince and Elvis. They're both on my shelf. I just want to point out they're both part of my super group. I just need a bassist. I need a drummer, a bassist, and a keyboard player. That's all I need. Just saying.
Thank you, Joey. We've got Glenn Mark coming up next. Glenn Mark, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you.
How's New Zealand?
Yeah, good. Thank you. It's still dark outside. I've had to get up early today for work.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's Monday there.
Yes, it is indeed.
You're across the international date line, so it's Monday.
Sorry that I'm jumping in front of people. I just have to get ready for work in about 20 minutes. So sorry about that. Sorry, I've just been punched in the gut. Because you're talking about Worcester and Jews, I went to Book Depository because I've been buying up all the books that I'm hearing are being changed as soon as possible. And Book Depository is going to be closing 22nd of this month, which is just heartbreaking.
I mean, the Jeeves and Wooster books probably are being canceled because one guy has a valet. And a valet is going to be, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And it's honestly, now it seems people are like, well, what does it matter? That's how it always begins. I mean, it's the long game. The dismantling of American society has been going on for a very long time. and the social media has only allowed it to continue because it's allowed bad actors. And make no mistake, I mean, our civilization is being dismantled piece by piece on a number of different levels, and it's being done so well and so effectively that we're allowing it to happen. We've been programmed to think, well, that's okay. You know, we have to be nice to people. We have to make sure that, and I would say, why do we have to be nice to people? Why do we have to make sure that everybody's comfortable all the time? Life is uncomfortable. To be born is to die. And why aren't we looking at life that way? And this idea that I mean, we're changing our very realities. Words don't mean the same thing. Biological realities are no longer important anymore. And then if you talk about these things, you become a pariah. People will come after you and go, "You're the problem." Really? I'm the problem. And you're changing the words in books, and we're the problem. I mean, I find it. I have never been terrified about the future. I've always been a futurist. I've always been like, oh my God. Nowadays, I'm like, where's our future? Where's it going to be? It's going to be, we are falling headfirst into a totalitarian nightmare. And we're saying, please take away these words that make me feel bad. Oh my God, Jeeves and Wooster, it's got problematic language. Uh-oh. Let me change the words to mean whatever I want them to mean. If we don't have language where we can all agree about what it means, how can we communicate? And nowadays, the very idea of language, and at first it's like, well, we have to let's on ideological grounds, we're going to go change these words. And people are like, yes, we should, because that's nice. Well, okay, once you can change language and decide it means something different. I mean, Orwell, all of these people wrote books and explained why this was bad already. And now it's like, nope, let's change language. Let's change it and make it be whatever we want. I'm going to change words to just so they're mine now. And we're watching it happen. We're giving it away. And nobody is saying shit. Well, we're just going to go change these books. Well, we really should, because, we have to be nice. Do we? Do we have to be nice?
Sorry to cut you off, Rob, but I'll go on to what so I've been experimenting with ChatGPT again.
Uh-oh. What do you think?
Yeah, it's good. Next time we have a mock, I will share something with you, since I don't have time. But I thought that for fun, I would because there's a couple of people who are using ChatGPT as a game master, like a dungeon master, to take them through campaigns. So I quickly put one in, and I asked it to place my setting in 1993's Jurassic Park, and I said that you have to include the NPC, the people in the film have to be the NPCs. And so far I've met Alan Grant. He is calling up for backup at the moment. And I've just heard this roar of a dinosaur. So I've made a perception check just to make sure I can work out what type of dinosaur is coming, which is a raptor, of course. And now some noises come upstairs. So I'm on my way upstairs to find out what's going on there. And I've heard a groan in a room. So I've gone into the room, and Dr. Sadler, she is injured. And so I've used my medical check to see that I can patch her up and all of this sort of stuff. So I wasn't sure if it would work, but I'm now in the midst of a Jurassic Park movie, but I'm writing it as I go along.
That's I wrote a children's book with ChatGPT, and it's very interesting. But again, I can't help but think that all of this stuff is being a science fiction fan, it's difficult, having read as much science fiction as I've read, not to see on every level of our society as AI is becoming more prevalent wherever we are. I mean, why AI now? Why not AI 5 years ago? Because it was just invented now. Isn't it interesting that AI was basically dropped on us in the same 6 months? whether it was Mid-Journey, whether it's ChatGPT, go back to November of 2022. Isn't it interesting that all of these AI tools, I mean, there were some that came out before, but it was all dropped on us at the same time. I mean, there's so much of it that no one's had any time to really think about what does this mean, you know, and suddenly it was just all at once, and now we're all just used to it. And it gives me pause, and I have to be like, huh, because remember, we're only seeing the AI that they decided to release to the public. What haven't they released to the public? You know, you see these funny, there's Chaos GPT. If you don't know this, Chaos GPT is another, and they've been asking Chaos GPT to destroy humanity. And what there's been just look it up, and you can see all the news articles about how Chaos GPT has now decided, well, it's a little too difficult. I mean, it's all very interesting. Again, not a conspiracy theorist, but it is interesting. It's a weird world we live in.
Rob, thank you so much, Glenn. Mark, a couple of super chats quickly to go through here. Marco Lanning, I think, has been a member in the past, but it looks like he has re-upped his membership or become a member here on YouTube for the first time. So welcome, Marco Lanning.
Thanks, Marco.
Martino Sulmoni, who I know recently was dealing with some ailments. He donates.
Martino is the man. If it wasn't for Martino Sulmoni, I would not have a Playmobil Starship Enterprise or a Playmobil A-Team van.
And we would not have the Playmobil series on the Burnettwork.
That's right. My God, I still owe. The Playtrek is one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Playtrek and a 3D bot maker are my two favorite things on the internet.
So welcome, Martino. Hope you're doing well. We've got Designing Hollywood donating a $10 super chat.
Oh my God, that would be. By the way, I mean, I can't. We don't know if this is going to happen, but there might be a Designing Hollywood European trip in the future.
Ooh.
Which I'll talk about later. But it's not right. It's not real right now. It's a theoretical thing, but it could be. I just had a conversation this morning with somebody that I would need to take on this vacation, and not a vacation. It's a work trip.
Nice.
But they're down. They're in Greenland right now shooting something, but they would have to go with us to shoot something else.
Lastly, Norwegian Kryptonian with 59. I think that's Norwegian Kronen. Sorry, can't join the stream. I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark, going to 2 Roger Waters (parentheses Pink Floyd) gigs.
Oh my God! First of all, Copenhagen is one of my favorite cities I've ever been to. Thank you, Sina, girl I went to elementary school with, but and my bonus daughter, Sophie. So it was great to be in Copenhagen.
Hey, welcome, SA Franklin. Coming up next.
What's going on, dude?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go light today. You were going dark.
I'm not. I'm always light. I don't mean to go dark, but it was Stubble all the way from Sweden talking about Jeeves and Wooster. I mean, you know, look how. Here's the thing. It's now book after book after book. I mean, it starts with Roald Dahl. It starts with James Bond. Now Jeeves and Wooster. I mean, how many? This is now a trend. This is now something that is, and by the way, it's happening. This is all happening in 2 months.
It's like the mid '80s with the rise of fundamentalism. I remember as a kid, you know, being 11, 12 years old in '86 and '87 when all the Falwell stuff came out, and society was so conservative then compared to what we have now. But then they're trying the same thing, and I think it's going to reach a capitulation at some point. You want to prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I just look. What's so weird today is everyone wants to police language, but yet 18-year-old girls can be on OnlyFans.
Yeah,
and we can. If I was like 11 years old, I used to have to go out into the woods with my friends in the pouring rain to find Playboy magazines that were hidden under a tree. And by the way, there were Playboy magazines hidden under a tree in the woods by my house. But nowadays we're allowing, I mean, it's very interesting what it is we're doing in our society. And I can't help but think that it's engineered. I can't help think that there are very specific things going on because they're targeted, will allow a lot of abhorrent things to happen.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're editing Jeeves and Wooster books.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's hard for me. It's hard for me to sit there and go, really? Like this is publishing is what you want to go after? Look at what's happening in America with our library system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, libraries are somehow the bastions of pornography and horrible stuff in our country, when I can go on to RedTube or Pornhub or whatever, or give money to my favorite OnlyFans 18-year-old as a middle-aged man. Yeah, that's okay. But our libraries are under attack. I mean, there's some weird shit happening, and I can't help.
Broken, no doubt. It's broken. I don't know when there will be a capitulation or if it will just continue. I think it's probably naive to think there'll be a neat capitulation and everyone will, things will just kind of slop on.
Well, I think that
experience.
Well, everyone's right now. It's just it's, and I can't help but think that there's a lot of bad actors out there that would like to see America torn apart, and they can never do it militarily. So we have been under, since social media has been the tool, and our way of life is being undermined. I mean, why is it that over the last 20 years, how many major shootings have there been? Like, I've never done the research, but did we have as many mass shootings 40 years ago?
No,
or 60 years ago?
It's third worldy. I mean, if you visit a third world country,
well, the question that
there'll be people there who are intelligentsia, who are educated. I mean, not like, I mean, the developing world, Latin America, et cetera, that understand that, that they may have been raised poor. They understand they're in a third world country and that their system is broken. And then there are the other people who kind of just don't have that extra thing clicked in, and they don't realize that they're part of their own predicament. And we're kind of, we're for better or worse, a lot of our society is kind of falling in that. And that's kind of the trend of the 21st century, where we're getting more absorbed into this nonsensical, zeitgeist. We don't understand. We have no consistency in our government anymore. We have no consistency in our laws. We have no consistency in our speech. There is the internet. There are people with various affiliations, but how, you even look at the movies. There's something, we're even confused about whether or not to go to the movies or whether or not to stream or to watch. And there have been I mean, aside from like a good kind of fanfic, I haven't seen anything. I mean, there are a few exceptions, but there hasn't been one single kind of unifying quality movie in over 20 years. Keep saying that. You can talk and hear what, Chris Gore, he talks about it all the time. You can definitely pick it up. And it's not just the people that are in LA working in the industry, it's society. How do they respond to it? I mean, that all those people have to come from somewhere, right?
Right.
They have to have some way, they have to have some pathos. Where are they going? They don't know where they're going because nobody is really telling them. I mean, I think it's a vacuum. I think there's a huge vacuum in the entertainment industry right now. That's what I've noticed, because there are no big mainstream things that people can plug into. They're just all these little compartments.
Super Mario, man.
What's your stream? What's your fan?
Everyone loves Super Mario.
I recently played the arcade version of Super Mario, which is a little bit harder, and I have no idea what else is going on in the game other than it's the game.
Well,
so I don't.
It's just, to me, what's so strange is and I'm sure people, I got all weird and political on everybody, which I apologize for. It's Sunday, but it is very strange where we're at in terms of and I only see it from an entertainment perspective, but the book thing is really bothersome, and the entertainment business has become just getting hired. Like, I've been told not to look for work because of who I am. And I'd never heard that before in my life, maybe because I've never been this old before, but it's like I've been told that my disposition is not something anybody wants to hear from or hear about or whatever. And that's terrifying. That we are like, let's figure out the people that is easiest to get rid of first. And that's how it always begins, you know, and now we're seeing a lot of this across. Let's get rid of books. Let's get rid of these things. Let's change our language and make it say something else. I mean, it's happening across many different, and it's art that pushes against all of this. Art is what makes us human beings. Art is something that people who are looking outside of themselves to create. And what is happening with art? Well, now we have AI. You know, we've got Midjourney. You know, why create art when we can just, you know, type in prompts? And it seems silly to say, but that's how it begins. And we're seeing a stratification of this across our entire civilization. And it's happening very quickly. And if you look for it, it's everywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, the question is why? And where are we going to wind up? Time to write another science fiction novel that somebody will edit, take out those problematic words from.
Maybe, maybe King Tannic has the answer, Rob. I'm going to let him in here. Welcome, King Tannic.
Hello.
By the way, your show is great, though.
The
Otaku experience is great.
Yeah, we're all getting depressed together. Don't let me ruin the fun.
I don't mean to be depressing. I'm drinking Zevia and I've got coffee in a giant mug with a gnome on it. It's because it's true. It's so weird. Like, we have the talking about the entertainment industry, we have the writer's strike that's becoming looming, more and more imminent as time goes on. Obviously, you guys have been talking about the whole books thing. There were more mass shootings today. We have AI coming in and probably gonna, in the next few years, if not even sooner, gonna start taking a lot of jobs from people because it'll replace them. Doing it already, make no mistake. I mean, it already is. I mean, what's so strange to me is, like, there's a great book. It's just called Columbine, and it's all about what happened at Columbine, the whole history. We, in this country, mass shootings have been normalized. Like, it's like, meh, you know. And then people scream about the Second Amendment. Whatever happened to a well-regulated militia? One, we don't have militias because we have a standing army. What about well-regulation? And I don't mean to get into, you know, everybody. The thing is, we in this country, Americans, like firearms more than we like our children. And we should just admit that. We'd rather have our guns than, if kids are killed in their schools and we're not going to do anything to stop it, we like guns more than we like kids. Let's just say that. And we pretend that we don't, but it's true. Like, how many people have to die? One guy brought a shoe bomb onto an airplane. 20 years later, I still have to take off my shoes in the airport. I mean, and the thing is, it's why not just tell the truth? We would rather have guns in this country than we would rather have safe schools. Mm-hmm. Because there's other things going on that have weaponized. People are being weaponized. And the question is why? Why this did not happen 40 or 60 years ago? And you know what? You never read, I haven't read a statistic that says, were we having mass shootings 60 years ago or 40 years ago, at the same rate we are having them now? And if not, then why not? What has happened in the last 20 years that wasn't here 40 years ago or wasn't here 60 years ago? Mm-hmm. And what can we do to prevent this from happening? And the fact is, people have access to guns. People have access to AR-15s, whoever wants them. Now, you would think the obvious answer would be to let's limit. Why doesn't it take 6 months to get a license? People are like, people have too many guns already. But, you know, if you're weaponized, people are being weaponized in our society to go off and murder. And that's, to me, that's an awesome premise for a science fiction movie. Like, let's make a 70s conspiracy thriller about how Americans are being weaponized by bad actors who are using social media to control people's minds to turn into murder machines. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a movie.
I mean, the more I see this stuff happening, the more I feel like we're like right on the cusp of like for a Star Wars analogy, we're like in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. That's
Yep.
where we are on the decline. And I'm like, well, if anything, I mean, granted, it's a movie, so it kind of has to happen fast. But how quick did everything rise, and then suddenly, bam, you're in an empire, like almost a day apart.
Well, and the funny thing about that is we've seen that time and time again. It's played out over human history, which, by the way, is not also who's teaching history anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really interesting because if you look at it, to me, I'm like, as a writer, I mean, I haven't written a book, but I've written a few screenplays, one of which was produced. I mean, if you look at this kind of stuff, it's all right there. It's happening right in front of us. It's funny because I've been talking to my oldest friend in LA, and we've been talking about writing our grand conspiracy thriller about the worldwide elites and all this, and we keep getting at we've been talking about this for years. We haven't written it yet, but every time we talk, there's more stuff to add. We have to add this to our grand conspiracy thriller.
Mhm.
The only problem is at the end of the day, the people, let's say the people on top that are engineering all this, what exactly do they want? I mean, it's not like they want to facilitate the second coming or even have Satan rise and take over the world. Same as it ever was. It's just money and power.
I mean, someone is asking me to talk about Transformers. The thing is, I can't even do that because Transformers, how did that start? Oh, a civil war on Cybertron about disagreements and politics. Look what that happened. Now I'm even more depressed. Thanks, guys.
Well, that's so funny. It's like, I don't want to hear politics in my Captain America story. Okay,
it's all.
He was fighting Nazis. It's fine.
I mean, look, with all this stuff happening in America, this is why we should start, and especially with the Western media, who knows when the writer strike is going to happen. Everybody, you should start watching anime. And how can you get more into anime? By watching the Otaku Experience this Thursday.
Right here on the Burnettwork.
Exactly.
Episode 12 is going to drop soon.
Taylor Gonzalez is going to be on this episode. We're going to be talking about Suzume and open spoilers. Everybody go see it because it's bombing in America and it's ridiculous. And I'm so upset. It's been a bad day.
To be fair, there's been no advertising
It's been
budget
horrible.
for Suzume.
I was like, it's the fourth highest grossing anime film of all time. And they didn't market it for the American release. And the American release was the last major release. It's done.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's American Suzume, an animation from another country. We can't support that. Those people that don't speak our language. We're changing our own language right from under us. God forbid we have somebody who speaks a different language. Mm-hmm. I mean, my God, can you imagine if we all have to learn another language to just watch a movie? And I'm not going to read subtitles. Come on, I'm only going to read subtitles on my TikTok videos or on my reels on Instagram. That's the only time I'm going to read subtitles, which is the weirdest thing in the world to me. Can somebody explain to me who decided to put dialogue on reels, to subtitle reels? So weird. I want to see subtitling in other languages so I can learn Spanish. I want every one of my reels to be in Spanish. Can I do that? Because I want to learn Spanish. Tengo, tiene, tienes, tienen, tenemos, right? Those are my conjugation of verbs. I need to learn more Spanish.
We're here to please, Rob.
Was that good? Was that tienes, tienen, tenemos? Is that right?
It sounds right. It's funny. I always get these questions about conjugation and tenses, and I'm like, I don't know. I just speak the language. It's like, what is the past pluperfect of blah blah blah? I'm like, I don't know. You just say it this way. That's
what I remember from my rudimentary Spanish class. It was tienes, tiene, or tienes, tenemo, Now I don't even know what I said the first five. Now I can't remember.
You got it. It's okay. It's okay. But it just shows you how we teach languages in this country. Most people learn it. How did you learn English? You just learn because people spoke it around you. You learn all that rule stuff later. But when it comes to learning a second language, it's all about learning all those rules first. And I was like, no. You just gotta start speaking. That's
not anymore because they keep changing the language out from beneath us.
Yeah.
You can't say these words are problematic.
We got Tom Jr. Jackson. Let's speaking of problematic words, here's Tom Jr. Jackson. Welcome, Tom.
Hi. I'm problematic. How would you?
You know, I'm gonna start introducing myself that way on my show. Your viceroy of verisimilitude and your pastor of problematic something. I don't know. Maybe not. What's going on, dude?
Not much. How you doing?
You know what? People might think because of this conversation that I'm angry and upset. I'm not. I'm not. I'm good. It's Sunday. It's other than the fact that the power was blown out in here. I'm having a nice time with all of you members.
That's a reason for you to be angry.
There's no reason to be angry because everything would trigger.
No, there was a reason to be angry that your power was out.
That was irksome. And what was really interesting is I do think it might have been certain plug outlets, and I don't know why. I just keep adding more power in here. It's, you know.
I was texting back and forth with RM this morning.
Oh, she's in Old Blighty. She's still in London town.
Yeah, she's doing her last tour of a couple places, and then I think tomorrow she said she's coming back.
Yes.
So,
but she came to us for Midnight Musings a little bit from England.
Yeah, she told me she goes, I went to Highcliffe Castle. I'm like, wait, isn't that Downton Abbey? And she goes, yeah. She shows me this picture of her. She's holding the phone, and behind her is the castle from Downton Abbey. And I told her, I said, if you ever do a review show on all the episodes of Downton Abbey, that has to be your thumbnail.
Oh yeah,
because you have the castle right there.
Well, if I will say this, there is a possibility that I might find myself in Europe town in early June, at which I didn't expect. So if that happens, it's a work trip, but it's a work trip that would begin in Spain, of all places, one of my favorite places in the world, in Madrid. But I will it's work related. But if that happens, I plan on taking a little extra time and making my way up from Spain, maybe go visit some people in Portugal and go to France and Germany and go to the UK, maybe Norway. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. And I'll broadcast the whole thing.
And last night I was moderating the Architects of Imagination thing.
What'd you guys think? What'd you think of that?
I really enjoyed it. And I was, a DJ was in the chat, and I was telling him about this friend I have who collects all these vintage game systems and has all these games stored it. So he has like the Atari 2600. He's got all these games. He has like the original ET game and they're all playable and stuff. He goes, Tom, send them my way. So I contacted my friend. I said, I know this guy has this first episode of his show about video games and stuff. Check it out. Get in touch with the guy because he's interested in your collection.
Oh, I mean, yeah. How cool is that? All good.
Yeah, we were talking about open world games. We were talking about a great open world game would be Flash Gordon.
I would play that.
And DJ goes, with Brian Blessed, I go, you know it. And it has to be, you have to have him saying, Gordon's alive.
Gordon's alive.
Yeah, I would like an open world game of Flash Gordon and maybe an open world Transformers game as well, but they have to include Unicron in it.
I'd play that. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. No, I think that Architects of the Imagination, I mean, I did the observations the other day, introducing everybody to DJ and talking to him. Like I knew him. I mean, I met him and stuff, but I didn't go in depth with his. I loved doing that stream. I thought that was a great.
As a matter of fact, Martika said, because she was in the chat, that she loved the dynamic between you and DJ. That she thinks that you and him should do a few episodes together.
Yeah, she keeps saying that to me, but here's the thing. To me, I look at it like I don't know shit about the video game industry. I know nothing, zero. And as a matter of fact, but I haven't.
That's the good thing.
But see, I don't even
everyman.
But I don't know what I don't know, and I don't like to me, it's DJ's show, and he knows. I mean, Martika's asked me to do that, but look, I can talk to anybody, like I can ask anybody questions, but I don't know if I would be. The funny thing about it's like the otaku experience. I like watching Israel King Tanik's show because I learned from it. You know, and I don't know. I mean, my knowledge of anime is 80s and earlier. You know, I don't modern anime. I mean, I like you know, stuff like Perfect Blue or Paranoia Agent or all you know, stuff like that. But I don't know much about basic anime. You know, I bought Weathering with You, and I couldn't tell you who directed it, but I found out who directed it. You know, and Your Name. You know, I've got Your Name and Weathering with You in beautiful box sets because I heard they were great, and they are great. But my knowledge of anime is limited. So when I watch King Tanik's show, I'm like, this is really good. I find this fascinating, you know, and I'm learning something about an area of entertainment that my knowledge is sorely lacking. And I think one of the cool things about Architects of Imagination is I look forward to learning stuff that I didn't know. Like in terms of the interview that when I was talking to DJ, when he was talking about how many milliseconds you have to draw a frame, you know, that was fascinating from a procedural standpoint. So that's why I really enjoy. That's why, look, my goal in life is to make the Burnettwork have 12 hours of original programming a day. Hopefully that it's not just me talking for 12 hours. And that's what I want. I want shows with people like King Tanik and DJ that really know their shit making shows. And I'll do raw observations, and I'll do, you know, 10 and 20 and do all this stuff. But I want to have, and there's been people that are saying, you know, why is RM doing stuff, and because I want to, it's called the Burnettwork, a network. I want to have a network of people and shows that I want to program, and I want 12 hours of original programming every day. And I don't know how to do that yet, but I'll figure it out. So
all right. Well, we got thank you so much, Tom, and thanks as always to Tom for all of his moderating superpowers.
Tom, and for his calling us all goof people. We are all goof people.
We've got Jared de los Reyes coming up next. Jared, you should be able to unmute now.
Hey, what's up, Rob?
What's up, man? How are you? The Gist with Jared.
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite movies of all time, and we're coming close to its like 10-year anniversary in June, and that's Man of Steel. I just did a re-review on it on my channel, and man, I just watching it again the past few days, it just amazes me how like amazing the depth of the story was, and like the similes and the metaphors of modern society and morality. And I was just wanting to talk to you about kind of how it like humanized Superman for me for the first time. I always felt like Superman was too perfect until I saw that movie. And in hindsight, obviously it didn't do as well as it needed to for that universe to continue. But when you think about Man of Steel, why do you think that kind of storytelling, that kind of vibe wasn't met as glowingly or with a large box office as it could have been?
I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel. And I loved it from the first time I saw it. And I thought that, to me, it's a great science fiction first contact story in addition to being a great superhero movie. But I think that the one thing that Man of Steel does not have in it is fun and joy. And when I say that, it's very serious minded. And then, of course, if you look at what we got before, and you go back to the other Superman movie that had 3 villains from Krypton, it's funny. I had a Superman 2 movie poster on the wall of my bedroom for years, and it said 3 outlaws from Krypton descend to Earth to confront the Man of Steel in a cosmic battle for world supremacy, and that was the tagline on the poster. But if you look at that film, even Zod, when he's in the White House, Earth is like, "You're a master of all you survey," and Zod's like, "That was yesterday and the day before." You know, it's funny, like it has humor in it. And the thing about Man of Steel is that there is a reverence, and there is a it's almost liturgical. It's almost it doesn't have, like, if you're Superman, it'd be fucking fun to be Superman, man. You could fly around, you'd be like, hey, you'd have a smile on your face. Clark Kent does not enjoy being Superman in that movie because he's only been Superman for a week.
Yeah.
And the problem is he just discovers he's Superman, and then suddenly Zod and his minions show up to try and destroy the world. And so there isn't, I mean, you do see joy when he first flies and he's going through the Arctic, and it's fun. But overall, that film is really a downer, and it ends with thousands of people are getting killed, and people are like, well, the Superman's allowing civilian deaths. Make no mistake, tens of thousands of people died in Metropolis as Zod and Superman were fighting. I mean, I didn't mind it, but the reason that the movie didn't make $1 billion is because it did not put a smile on people's faces. We love it because we take our superheroes seriously. And I love it because I love science fiction stories. I loved the depiction of Krypton in the opening of the film. I thought it was badass. I loved it all. I loved everything in that movie. And it wasn't until like Superman sits down with Lois Lane, they have that conversation. It means hope. You have an S on your chest. Well, in my, like, still, and as much as I love Man of Steel, I can recognize, people always complain that the MCU has too much humor in it. But the fact is, if you were a superhero on this planet, you'd be having a good time. I mean, there would be joy in your life. And even when Superman takes revenge against the douchebag and destroys that guy's truck, when he's working,
it's justified.
It's justified, but it's still mean. It's still, Superman went out and destroyed a truck that cost $200,000. That guy might have been a dick, but Superman was a dick too. He didn't do something that was funny and clever. He went out and ruined some dude's livelihood. And while you can say that at the end of Superman 2, when Superman goes back and says, but even when he destroys that guy that beat him up, he's like, I've been working out. There's still a smile and a glimmer. And that's the problem with all of Zack Snyder's. It's a problem with, I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love the ultimate version of Batman v Superman, and I love Man of Steel. The problem is there's no joy in those movies. Those movies are fucking downers. And that's why they didn't work for the masses. And I love Man of Steel. And the thing is, superhero movies, they're superheroic. And unless you have a bit, at least the Infinity Saga, part of the reason that I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe worked as well as it worked was because it struck a great balance between seriousness and humor. Look at Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1 is that perfect balance. And then Captain America, the First Avenger, has that balance in it. And that allows you to make Winter Soldier. But even like Civil War has humor in it. I mean, inherently, the battle at the airport when all the superheroes are fighting, there's humor. They're like, why are we fighting? And I think that the reason why Zack Snyder's as much, because the people that love it, and I'm one of those people, we love the seriousness of it. But the thing is, a superhero movie, by its very existence, must have joy in it in some way, shape, or form. And Zack Snyder's movies do not. And that is my one criticism of, well, I have others, but that's the biggest criticism. They don't put a smile on your face. Give me Bruce Wayne showing up in Metropolis at the beginning of Batman v Superman and watching his own building be destroyed and people that work for him die. I mean, I fucking love that opening. As a matter of fact, I can't lose my Affleck Hot Toys head. I got this body that I was going to put him on, which doesn't work because it's the wrong body, even though it's silicone. I've got his outfit, ready to go. Don't have the right body for the head. I'm just saying, but I keep, because I love this so much. But at the end of the day, that opening is depressing as fuck. You're watching Metropolis being destroyed, tens of thousands of people dying, a poor girl's losing her father. That's how the movie opens. Anyway.
Yep. Maybe our AI artist in resident, all the way from Israel, Alon can chime in.
You
with an
got wacky
opinion
problems.
here.
Israel has
Mr.
wacky problems of its own these days.
Yeah, you want to talk about politics?
No, already, I think I already talked to enough people. Like, I don't want to hear about this. I want to talk about the Mandalorian and Star Wars. I mean, but
Yeah.
for those who aren't following Israeli politics, there's a lot of politicking going on where you are,
Yes,
and it's a small country. You can't get away from it.
it is. The protesters are usually like right across the corner from my home. But we're not here to talk about that.
No.
No, I'm sorry. I'm still shook or shaken by the head of Ben Affleck that you had for some reason.
Come on, man. Look at how great that is. That's a great Hot Toys head sculpt. And of course, Ben Affleck has his movie Air out now.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's great.
It's great,
Go
right?
watch it. Yeah, go watch it.
And so, by the way, is
Great
Tetris. Tetris that's on Apple Plus. Tetris is a great movie too. So if you haven't seen that,
I haven't seen Tetris yet.
it's really good.
I have seen Mario. It's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it brings back the joy of going to the movie theaters for younger audiences. I think it's wonderful.
Agreed.
And also, I happened to I stumbled upon Shaun of the Dead a couple of nights ago.
Had you not seen it?
I have. Well, I did saw it when I
Okay.
was 13, I think, or 14. I was right, like I was the target audience for this.
That
film.
movie is that movie is a great example, like an American Werewolf in London. It is both a great comedy and a great horror movie.
I would say it's more of a comedy, but I would say that it's perfect as it is. It doesn't need
Yep.
an inch. It had to move an inch either side. Like it's both, and it's great, and it's awesome. So anyway, this trickled me into like this loophole of Edgar Wright movies. Since then, I've seen Last Night in Soho, and I plan to watch Hot Fuzz tonight.
Have you ever seen Hot Fuzz?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
'Cause it's great.
I've seen all of the three films, I think, but
Did you see that they're?
It's always good to watch it again.
He's executive producing a comic, an animated series based on why am I drawing a blank on the 7 evil boyfriends? Why am I drawing a blank on the name of that movie? Anyway.
Oh, I remember that movie. I think I remember this campy old movie. Or old
Scott Pilgrim.
oldish.
Scott Pilgrim. That's it. It's called Scott Pilgrim versus.
Okay.
yeah.
So
So there's a Scott and they brought back all the cast to do the voices.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And a friend of mine, Ben David Gravinsky, is working on it. Wrote it.
I'm not gonna lie. I got really hyped over the last announcements from DC. The Penguin Show looks great.
The Penguin Show looks great.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
And also, like the entire Warner presentation was awesome. I think I didn't think I'd get so excited over like the Barbie Dreamhouse, whatever. Yeah, but I am the target audience for AGTV.
I was laughing. Hey, I'll come over to your house tonight. Why? What are we gonna do? I don't know.
Barbie,
We'll find out, buddy. You'll find out.
No, I really got excited for it because I think it has a great premise, and it takes two of like the strong brands of like Barbie and the home renovation shows, and it mixes them all together.
I know.
I'm almost as excited for the new Harry Potter series as I am for the Barbie renovation show.
You know what? I if they're gonna delve into the one of the things that I didn't like about the first Harry Potter movie, I know it's horrible to say this, I thought it was a movie about magic that was not magical, because it had to be so true to the book, and yet it was truncated. It was only like 2 hours. I think that
I think you are completely wrong. I've just
Of course
been
I
to
am.
like I've just been to like a screening with this and like a philharmonic orchestra behind like the screen. It was amazing. It was full of magic.
Dude, I'm old, and for me, hey man, I'm just saying. I know everyone. You were in the age group. I get it. I understand. But I think that doing a Harry Potter series, when they can really do a book a season, I think that's gonna be great. I don't know who they're gonna. I think trying to find the tough part about that show is, who do you find? I mean, Daniel Radcliffe was so perfect. I don't know who you're gonna find to be Harry Potter, but I wouldn't want to. That casting decision is gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough. Maybe they'll work it out. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Apparently, I've heard rumors that it's being used as a kind of a negotiation tactic. It's almost like threatening the old cast that, if you guys don't want to move forward with stories being told post the original books, then we're just gonna go ahead and rewrite the whole thing, restart the whole thing.
I can see that. I mean, I think they want to do both. Yeah. I think they could do both, but it's again, the position. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole about again, it comes back to like language and why are we being policed? And you can go back and there's I put it on there was a really interesting, so I saw this really interesting thing on Facebook, on YouTube, about not trans but transhumanism, and how there are ideas that are being put forward. They're just using the trans community as part of their whole plan, but the idea that human beings will disassociate themselves from their physicality, and we will begin ultimately a totally digital existence. And it was really interesting. I put this on my Facebook page, and it was funny because it reminded me of Neil Stephenson's book Snow Crash. And Snow Crash is one of my favorite books I ever read in my life. If you haven't read Snow Crash, it is, I mean, a lot of the concepts in it are dated now, but in terms of, especially Ready Player One owes a great debt of gratitude to Neil Stephenson's book Snow Crash. But Neil Stephenson is one of my favorite science fiction writers, and I think everybody should read Snow Crash. But the idea of a digital existence, the first thing we do is we disassociate human beings from our biological reality, and which is happening. And then once we do that, then you disassociate human beings from the idea of being physical at all. Like, let's all go into the virtual world where we can just hook ourselves up to machines that will sustain us, but we're really existing in a virtual digital space. And then eventually we'll get rid of bodies altogether, which, by the way, would be cool, because put me on a generational starship when I die, let my intellect be downloaded into a mainframe, and I'll run a starship for 250 years till we get to the next planet. I mean, can you imagine if you were and I could watch every single movie that was ever made, and I didn't have to worry about eating or going to the bathroom? It'd be great.
And you could watch them instantaneously. It would be like they would just be there, part of your experience.
Well, I would, but I'd want to watch them only because I'd want to watch them in real time, because it would be a 250-year journey.
But you could have it both. You could probably have it both ways. You could watch them, erase them from your memory, rewatch them again. I mean, you could probably do all sorts of things.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? I could finally watch every episode of Barney Miller, or I could see all those British shows that I've never seen. The old BBC shows, all the Doctor Who episodes that still exist. Right. And the ones that don't, I could have AI regenerate them.
Recreate them for
recreate the Doctor Who episodes that they've lost, that they taped over.
Yeah.
Why isn't AI doing that?
Give me
the Doctor Who episodes I didn't get to see.
Based on a conversation I think we had here a couple of weeks ago, I started watching The Peripheral on Prime, and that's kind of verging in a lot of this same stuff that you're talking about. And the idea that through quantum tunneling, not only can you transmit yourself digitally another, to a virtual world. You can transmit yourself to a different time. That is just bizarre.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And by the way, again, William Gibson wrote that book, and the man who coined the phrase cyberspace, in his book Neuromancer in 1984.
Yeah.
So you go it's cool that, and by the way, you know what? When they were advertising the Peripheral, they never said it was from William Gibson.
They never did.
They always talked about how it was, was it Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy or whatever?
Yeah, they should have led with William Gibson's The Peripheral.
I can't. Here's another thing. The fact that they adapted William Gibson, the father of cyberpunk, who anybody who's interested in science fiction over the last 40 years, most people have read, whether Count Zero. I mean, he coined the greatest phrase of a female orgasm ever, and he titled the book his phrase, which is Mona Lisa Overdrive.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that is the greatest name for a female orgasm I've ever heard, and he titled a book this way. And you don't say that guy. You don't say William Gibson's The Peripheral. From Jonathan Nolan, the guy who made Westworld. He didn't make Westworld. Michael Crichton made Westworld and directed the movie in 1973. I mean, but no, everyone's like, no, it's from Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. Yeah. This is the problem with our modern civilization. Everyone's lying. Lie. Well, lies.
But you say William Gibson's whatever, and nobody nowadays reads William Gibson. They don't know who the heck that is.
Nope.
No.
Nope. And I used to ask my friends, but did you like, I hooked up with so-and-so. I'm like, yeah, but did you put her into Mona Lisa Overdrive? And they look at me like, I'm like, if you didn't, I don't want to hear about it. Unless you did, that doesn't make anything. I have no respect for you.
All right. Well, Pedro Ferreira maybe has some respect for you, Rob. Here he is. Welcome, Pedro.
What's up, dude? How you liking Picard, brother? Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That's a sore subject. William Gibson. I actually became aware of him because they made a game based off his work in the early 90s for the Amiga. So I grew up with a Chaos engine, which was based off his work. So that's how I know him. So
yeah, I mean, William Gibson was one of, in terms of modern science fiction, is one of the giants.
Yeah.
And I have many of his books right up here on the shelf, including The Peripheral. And it's amazing to me that they haven't mentioned that anywhere. And I'm just like, wow. And the reason people don't know him anymore is because, wow, they'll adapt his books, but they won't say from William Gibson, the father of cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. You would think I mean, there's video games. One of the biggest video games of a couple of years back was Cyberpunk. Right. Was it 2077 or something?
Yeah.
Johnny Silverhands I
mean, not many people know that they've made games based off William Gibson anyway. I mean, like I said, they made the Chaos engine, but people don't really know that that's supposed to be William Gibson based off the his work and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. But,
yeah.
I was actually going to say I'm actually parting ways with a Star Trek magazine that I have. I'm going to sell it on eBay, and it's the
British version.
Yeah, it's the SFX edition. I don't know if you could see that.
Oh yeah.
Did you get that one back in the day?
I used to buy. I love SFX. They did a great story on Free Enterprise once.
Yeah,
but I used to buy it all the time. I can't
say I'm a big fan of them, but I did buy this. It was 2013, so it was when Star Trek Into Darkness was coming out.
Oh.
So you get the. I'm going to do a little thing here where you get the magazine that came with it, which is all just Star Trek, and then you get. I'd have to show you this. This is a Star Trek Into Darkness poster.
Oh yeah.
And you get a little badge.
Oh, there you go.
Badge, and you might like this one. You get a Mirror Universe poster.
Oh yeah, that's by Jose. What's his name? Who did all the posters for every episode.
Yeah. So you get
By the
all
way,
of that
Bon
anyway.
Necron in the chat asks if anyone ever read Omni magazine. I had a subscription to Omni,
No,
and Omni magazine was actually in the movie 2010, back in '84.
Oh well, I'm getting rid of that because I think, as Dieter would say, this is a schneps. Was it Schnepsen?
A Schnäppchen, yeah, a good. Well, a Schnäppchen is a bargain. So if you find something for a good price, it's a Schnäppchen.
Yeah, well, it probably will end up that way anyway.
And by the way, I want to point out that we are doing Let's Get Physical Media this week, but we're doing it on Tuesday at 11.
Oh, okay.
Not today.
The only thing I was really wanted to ask you was kind of, I suppose, that you've got all these different shows coming up, and I had like an idea for a show, but apart from that one idea, I didn't know, like, in terms of like what I could do, how I could like sort of help out. I don't really know my place in the Burnettwork going forward.
What do you want to be? What do you want to do?
I would well, I've been trying to get into more like more podcasts and stuff like that, taking part in more conversations and stuff like that online and stuff like that. But yeah, it'd be good to contribute something to the Burnettwork.
I mean, I'm totally open to all that. I just would have to see an example of what you would want to do. Like you'd have to make like a snippet of whatever show you'd want to do. Because here's the funny thing about YouTube. And I was having this conversation with Elizabeth because everybody wants me to do a panel show like the John Campy show. I am developing a panel show. The hard part is to get panelists, because it is a difficult thing to talk on camera. It is a difficult thing to be engaging. And if you watch a lot of YouTube shows, there's a lot of people that talk, but they're not engaging to watch. And you also have to have
talk, but they hate me.
Well, you have to have a dynamic. You have to be able to look into a camera and look, I'm not saying that. The only reason I've just been talking since I was a kid. I worked in retail starting at 13 years old. So I could walk up to anybody. I worked in home video. I was selling VCRs in 1980 as a 13-year-old, asking people to give me $1,500, and I would sell them a VCR. And that's how they, but there's a lot of people that cannot, they're not engaging on camera. And you have to, and I'm not saying I'm the end all be all of it, because I'm not. But there's and then when you add a dynamic of a panel show, then you have to know how can you talk to somebody on camera and then stop talking and let them talk without having to be prompted. And there's a lot of YouTube shows that I watch that I look at. It's a really hard thing to do. And Elizabeth's like, well, you could get this person or you could get that person. I'm like, I don't think that they know how to be engaging on a show and also interact with other people. That's a really hard thing to do. And it was funny because when I was first asked to go on Collider, actually AMC Heroes, when I first met John Campia, John Schnepp had called me up and said, hey, I'm doing this YouTube show. I was on the 6th episode of Collider Heroes. I'd never been on YouTube before. I'd been a pundit on a TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s, but I was a guest. That was the only other time. And then I spoke a lot at sci-fi conventions. It's hard. And it's really hard to create a dynamic with multiple people. So there's one person that you guys don't know that I want on this panel show, who's going to be on this panel show, who's been in the entertainment industry longer than I have and has more to say and has done more than I have, that I wanted on the show. And I went after this person and I said, hey, you got to come do this. And he agreed. But now, I'm looking for a female pundit that has worked in the entertainment business that wants to come on YouTube. There aren't any. I can find fans, that's fine, but I want to find somebody who has 30 years experience working in the entertainment business to come on a panel show to talk about stuff. And it's hard. I have a few friends that maybe could do it, but it's still tough. It's tough to do, tough to find. So,
all right, thank you so much.
Panel for food.
We've got Marcus Bisma coming up next. Marcus, you should be able to unmute now. Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, Rob. What's up, man? How you doing?
Great, man. But I saw your video on Rings of Power, the declines numbers, and I'm like, as a huge fantasy fans, when I was so excited about that show.
I know. So was I.
I wanted it to be good, and it's the most expensive show ever made. After the first episode, I look at my girlfriend's face after the show was done, and she was like, "What?" And that is the mainstream audience reaction to the at least first 3 episodes.
Oh, it was that show is singularly awful. And when it finally got a little bit better, we were all so desperate to want to love it. I've never wanted to love something more than I wanted to love Rings of Power.
Me too.
And I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it. I mean, I spent years of my life working on the extended versions of Lord of the Rings for the DVD releases, making those documentaries. But that show is singularly awful. And I have to blame the showrunners. They, as people pointed out. But the fact that the numbers that came out in America. So for those of you who don't know or haven't seen anything, so there's something called completion rate amongst streaming shows. So every show that is watched, a completion rate is if you start watching a show, whether it's 8 episodes or 10 episodes, the completion rate of a show defines whether or not it's going to be renewed. On Netflix, if a show has less than 50% completion rate, meaning 50% of the people who started it finished it. If it has anything less than that, Netflix immediately cancels the show. In the United States, Rings of Power had a completion rate of 37%, meaning that 37% of the people that started it finished it. Netflix would have canceled that show immediately. That is a disaster. In Europe, it was a 45% completion rate. Now, here's the thing. Europe even has we don't have the fantasy tradition in America. We have Westerns, but Europe has fantasy, Lord of the Rings, all kinds of, we don't have that as much as Westerns were our fantasy. So that's why we had a 37% completion rate and Europe had 45. That shows you just how bad that show is. That is a disaster. That is a show that did not work. And of course, they've spent so much money. What are they going to do? They're going to, not only do they pay $450 million for the rights, which is insane, they're going to double down anyway. And the question is, anybody in their right mind would not throw good money after bad. The Rings of Power didn't work. I mean, as a matter of fact, if I was working on Rings of Power, I'd fire everybody and I would say that this show, everybody, I mean, and I would reconceptualize it from the beginning, get new showrunners in and start from scratch. Because the idea that Mordor was built in a day by some Rube Goldbergian machine that all you had to do is pull a trigger, that was the stupidest shit I've ever, I'm looking at this going, who wrote this garbage? Because that would mean that somebody built this Rube Goldbergian contraption thinking, one day, if you just pull this trigger, we spent 10,000 years building this whole pulley river system. Someday you're going to be able to pull this and Mordor is going to be created in an afternoon. I'm like, who wrote this? So, honestly, who wrote this shit?
Rob, my concern is it's a blow for fantasy adaptations. House of the Dragon is a fantasy, but it's a subgenre. It's called grimdark.
Right.
My concern is for the fantasy, lighter fantasy, like Brandon Sanderson's books, that will cost a lot of money to make, but it's not grimdark. It's for YA fantasy, for it's a lighter tone. And my concern is those kind of works that are incredible will not be made because of Rings of Power failure.
Well, no, I think you're not wrong. I mean, the thing about House of the Dragon, and I think why Game of Thrones works, is because if you take the fantasy out of it, it would work as a political thriller. It would work. It's a story about hubris and human desire and war, and it has all of the things in it that we recognize. When you're trying to, the problem with the Rings of Power show, it had no reality in it at all. Like when you watch Lord of the Rings, the movie and not the book, but you watch the movie, you got the 5-minute opening where Galadriel is narrating, here's what happened in the first or the second age leading up to the War of the Ring where Sauron was defeated. And then you go into this bucolic, whether they're hobbits or not, Peter Jackson establishes these are real people. Like, I get it. You're sweeping your front stoop. Gandalf shows up, this tall wizard, and you've got people at their front gates looking at this guy going, great, he's back. Like, we totally get, you believe in the Shire, even though we've never seen hobbits before, but they're just they're simple country folk. And even though they're hobbits, we believe in them. And the problem with Rings of Power was they never made us believe in any of those people. You know, immediately we're just supposed to love them because it's a Lord of the Rings show. But they should have forgotten there was Lord of the Rings. You know, when you're making a great fantasy adaptation, the key is forget you're making a fantasy show. What you're making is a show about human beings in a fantasy context. Hobbits are not hobbits, they're people. They're us. We are all hobbits. The viewers are hobbits. We are all Sam and Frodo. And if we're not Sam, we're Frodo. And if we're not Sam and Frodo, our friends are. So we understand, what does it be? You're Merry and Pippin. So you understand these four guys that set out like, shit, man, I kind of like living in my house, but okay, we have this mission we're going to undertake. I'm going to take my buddies with me, and we're going to set out. All of us get it. When you watch it, you're like, and what you were watching in Rings of Power was a copy of a copy of a copy. They never made you believe in any of those people. And the same was true, I hate to say it, of Wheel of Time. You know, it's very hard. That's why fantasy as a genre has not worked as well as, say, science fiction. Because with fantasy, you have the extra added, you have magic and stuff. We know magic isn't real. In a science fiction movie, most of the time you have technology. So, you know, you can buy into technology. But magic, we can't buy into because magic isn't real. So if you're going to make a fantasy show, it's doubly important that the creators make you believe in them as people. You got to believe in those protagonists and you have to make your audience believe in them. And Peter Jackson, I mean, when you see that shot of Gandalf going over the bridge into the Shire and you hear the Howard Shore music and the camera pulls up and you see the whole, we're in, man. You're like, I get it. I understand exactly where this is. I want to live there. I love the people there. I get it. And they made you believe from the opening. The problem is nowadays, everybody looks at Lord of the Rings and they try and copy it. And they can't figure out, they have not made you fucking believe. World of Warcraft, that movie, even though it's directed by David Bowie's son, you didn't believe that movie. And the funny thing is we all play World of Warcraft. So everyone's like, oh, we'll immediately, no, they didn't make you believe, man. And that is the key to any science fiction, fantasy, or horror film. You need to believe. And if they don't make you believe, Rings of Power, it was fraudulent from the get-go. There's not one thing in it that you believe. Galadriel, I mean, I know that Gary Nerdrotic says this a lot, Guy Ladriel. I didn't believe that character. You know, they're like, we have to make a girl boss in this show. No, you're bastardizing Tolkien's character. This is not Galadriel. Did you not? And they're always like, we're going to go back to the books. Really? That wasn't the Galadriel from what Tolkien wrote. But hey, and that's why it didn't work. No one believed it. And they're going to double down. Mordor was made in a day by some Rube Goldbergian device that all you had to do was pull down this thing and, oh, here's Mordor. Give me a break. That shit was awful. That's why it has a 37% completion rate, because nobody believed it. No one liked it. And all the people that did finish hoped it got better, and it never did. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Call me crazy. But man, and it sucks because now it's going to be doubly hard, as you pointed out, to get a fantasy book made. And it sucks. But you need deft creators that understand every single fantasy property is harder to make than a science fiction property because you have an extra added layer of unbelievability to it, which is magic. And magic and elves and dragons, whatever the fuck it is, you need to make your audience believe. And it's harder to make fantasy people believe in fantasy. That's why there has not been, if you look over the last 40 years of movies, how many fantasy movies do you love? Did you love Dragon Slayer? Not really, but now that you have it on 4K, it's cool. The Dragon was good. ILM did great work, but did you love it? Krull. People love Krull now because it's got a cool weapon and maybe a crystal spider, but is it good? And that's why there's not a lot of great fantasy films over the last 40 years. What do you look to first? Lord of the Rings, 2001, 2002, 2003. That was the beginning. That was the first time anyone nailed a fantasy movie. Big budget fantasy film. First time.
Yeah. I would say on a series level, Rob, the thing that comes closest to me to a success, and I think to me it's because it really did a good job of developing the characters, was the TV series based on the Lev Grossman book, The Magicians.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's the closest thing for me it gets to translating fantasy to.
But that was post Lord of the Rings
series. It was post Lord of the Rings, and it was also a mixture of magic, but also very much grounded in modern day
because they made you believe.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And that is the key.
Yeah. We got Justin Toner next. Justin, welcome to the chat.
What up, dude?
Hey.
Come down and have lunch again.
Yeah, it's funny. A friend of mine, she heard about that statistic, and she joked with me when I saw her last week. She's like, "We're part of that percentage, right?" I was like, "Yeah," because we watched the first couple episodes of Ring of Power, and then she was like, "Yeah, not like this sucks." More like this doesn't seem to be working. And then she's like, how about we watch Andor instead? I'm like, yeah, because Andor was awesome, and I'd like to see what you thought of it. So we switched to Andor. So it's like we were part of that. There was some good nuggets here, but overall, I was like, what is this? It was just like, it was such a disappointment.
Well, because
anyway, you already went on a long enough rant for that.
Sorry.
So Star Trek Picard season 3 this week. Oh, dude, man, that episode just like it got me like emotionally so much.
Oh, dude, you know what's really funny? I find you're the first person to bring this up. The reason that I love Picard so much, and is because of the emotional content. Like, I love stories about watching grizzled characters or people coming back, like Color of Money, Paul Newman in The Color of Money, playing Fast Eddie Felsen again. A movie like The Professionals, where you see these characters. Star Trek Picard, take away the Star Trek out of it. Take the Star Trek out of Picard. The portrayal of all of these characters has been great.
Yeah,
I've
been watching this. I'm just like, these are the characters that I remember. These are the characters that I fell in love with.
And they've never been portrayed better. Those actors are better than they've ever been.
That brought me into Star Trek, made me love Star Trek, the TNG crew. As like, this is who they are, and it's like they're older and they're different, and they've gone through changes, but the core of who they are is still there. And that's a kudos to the writing and also to all the actors in it as well.
And it's interesting to watch there's been a lot of people that come after me, detractors, that are saying this is awful, and I'm like, dude, TNG gave us Night Terrors. It gave us Sub Rosa. Like, what is it that you are not seeing in this?
Barclay's protomorphosis syndrome. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I've often said that the original series is 75% good. Is 75% good. Or how about this? Home Soil from the first season. Ugly bags of mostly water.
Mostly water.
I mean, it's so weird to me that and also when it comes to, I mean, the Borg, in terms of Picard, the show's called Picard. The Borg.
I know. I saw people like, why? Oh man, the Borg. I'm like, but yes, okay. The Borg, thanks to Voyager, a lot of things have been weakened as a villain. But who else? Because of the Borg are so tied to Picard because of what happened with Best of Both Worlds and and everything. It makes sense for them to be. If this is their swan song, it makes perfect sense that the TNG crew are going out one more time against the Borg and the Borg Queen because of everything that's happened. And
also, she's also tried to assimilate Earth. She's gone after Starfleet multiple times.
The writing, everything was foreshadowed and teased throughout the season. Going all the way back to the first couple scenes of the first episode. on Beverly and Jack's ship, a log from Best of Both Worlds, an actual personal log that Picard said in that episode was played over.
It was literally the opening of the show.
Yeah, it was one of the first things you heard and saw.
And the reason the reason it's open is because Beverly was going back into her records because she wanted to find the proper code to send to Picard to get. She wanted to make sure it was correct because you know
the transport. Why did the change thing replace the transporter guy? Ro being paranoid of the transporters. It's like the vines, everything was set up and teased and then executed. It's not like this, like, oh, this didn't come out. This didn't come out of nowhere. No, this was all. That's the sign of great writing.
And I'll tell you something else. When I first watched it, I'm a pretty astute Star Trek viewer. I didn't know it was the Borg. I didn't think it was a Borg until later on, where it's like, and I was just like, it started to make sense. Especially when Vadic was like told Seven, it's appropriate that you are here to see us. That's when I was like, oh, it's like. Well, and also, if you think about it, so you have this rogue renegade faction of changelings. The Borg Queen, as you will see, is not.
Real quick, I only got a couple of seconds. Just bring it back to D. Amazing how they rebuilt it. Amazing. People need to go check the Ready Room from this week. Because Will Wheaton got a tour of the recreation, and they go in depth about how the work they put into to recreate the Enterprise D bridge. Wonderful. And I mean, watching Will Wheaton sit down at the con where he sat for several seasons and he just hugs it because it's like it just brings back all the memories. It just was like just warmed my heart. It's like and him talking to Frakes about the emotions that they felt seeing how the job they did to rebuild this from scratch, because the original's gone, and the only thing that's actually from the original set is the plaque, because that was saved.
Right.
Everything else was recreated down to the minute detail. It's just to the people, kudos and everybody involved who made that happen.
The reason that I wanted to see Picard season 3, and the reason that I first sought it out to try and see it in advance, was because I was having lunch, Mexican. We went to a Mexican restaurant. I was with Doug Drexler and a couple of other people. And Drexler said, he goes, check this out. And on his phone, he showed me pictures of the Enterprise D bridge. And he was working on Picard. I'm like, what is this? He asked me, he goes, check this out. What is this? He asked me what it was. I'm like, well, obviously it's the Enterprise D bridge, but why do you have it on your phone? And he goes, because we recreated it. I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, what do you mean you recreated it? He goes, yeah, man, we recreated the D. And I'm like, he didn't say man, he didn't speak that way. But I was like, no way. Then I became obsessed with Picard season 3, even though I hated Picard seasons 1 and 2. I'm like, what the heck? What's going on, brother? And of course, what's really interesting is if you read, like I've read, I don't even want to admit how many Star Trek novels I've read in my life, but all of Shatner's. Shatner and the Reeve Stevens wrote 10 Shatnerverse Star Trek novels together. And the second one, there's multiple references in Picard season 3 to the second Shatner novel, The Return. One is that his body in the book, the Borg and the Romulans team up and resurrect Kirk. And the character of Vox, this episode was called Vox, was a Borg, was the Romulan version of Locutus, was Vox. And they had to take the saucer section off Viridian 3 because it was and they say it in the episode that it was a prime directive violation. You can't leave a crashed starship full of modern technology on a primordial planet with life forms that are going to find it. I mean, we don't even admit we have alien technology and it's 2023. So they had to remove it. So it all made sense. But man, that was awesome. It looked great.
Yeah, and Rob, another I think huge clue that it was the Borg is that every episode since the beginning closes with the First Contact theme.
I know. I mean it's like, it's not like they didn't telegraph it all, and it's so funny because everyone's like, "Oh, this writing is terrible." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Riker talking about how his son being lowered into the ground, and how, I mean, how do you? This is the thing. When I can't take people seriously when they talk about, oh, this isn't, and I'm like, you guys, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
You know, what are you looking at? Well, and the scene where Picard and Ro Laren, and come on, if you don't think that Ro Laren had a Klingon bird of prey beaming her off the ship,
yeah.
It's like, give me a break.
I think also one of the issues that people are, I think the issues that I see with the Borg really, to me, come down to the fact that the Borg was so poorly serviced in seasons 1 and 2 of Picard.
Totally. Oh my God.
If this was the one and only season of Picard, we would not be having the discussion about the Borg that we're having, because it would have been a pleasant surprise and would make perfect sense. But we messed up so much stuff in those first 2 seasons that it makes it feel a little bit anticlimactic. So you just kind of have to remove those from your head canon and just think of this jumping in as the jumping in point.
Well, and for Picard, the Borg Queen is the Joker.
Yep.
If Picard's Batman, the Borg Queen's the Joker. Right. And if you look at all these, and to find out that they didn't know that his DNA was altered, like people are like, well, why didn't they do it? They weren't looking for that. It was obviously something they couldn't see. Yeah. You know, you think when they brought Picard back from being Locutus, whatever was buried in his body was beyond, we'd never seen that before, so no one's scanning for that. They wouldn't have known what it was, even though Beverly even says they're rewriting his DNA. Well, they were somehow able to do something to his DNA, Trojan horse, call it whatever you want, that it probably was left there and wasn't even activated until long after he was retaken back by the Enterprise crew, and wasn't Locutus anymore. Yeah. So,
all right, we got Roger coming up next. Roger Robertson, welcome, my friend.
What's up, dude?
Hey, Rob.
The world's most comfortable chair.
That's right. Hey, I wanted to say I really appreciated RM's reports from a celebration last week.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
Yeah, it was. You know, it really got to, what I liked about her deal was she really felt like, she was really part of the stuff. And I really loved the one way out chant people that she was following.
that was awesome.
Because, I was watching it, I got the impression that Andor was not really being embraced by the Star Wars fandom so much here, but watching that celebration seems like Andor, they're just crazy about Andor. Maybe
because they're smart. People in Europe are smarter than people in America.
I don't know.
Well, when you've had your entire subcontinent decimated by things like, I don't know, World War II, the people understand, like, we get it, as opposed to Americans. No one ever went Pearl Harbor. Yeah, we don't have an understanding of what Andor is actually about. I mean, look, I kid my fellow Americans.
Yeah, but we've had our rebellions, though. But
yeah, of course, but nobody remembers them. All we know is the last 20 years. People don't even watch movies about World War II anymore. They're like, what? You watch Dutch movies. The Dutch can't make a movie that doesn't have World War II references. They're still smarting from World War II. But in America,
I know you know what their most vicious memory of World War II was that the Germans took all their bicycles.
Yeah, and threw them in the rivers. That's why you can go fishing with magnets and always find something in Amsterdam.
That's how they got around. But so the Germans, confiscated all their bicycles so they'd be dependent on everything, and that was what their main negative.
Freddie Mercury wrote a song about it. Bicycle. I don't know if that's true. That's just the first thing that popped into my mind. I kid, by the way. I don't mean to make light of World War II, but Andor is a great show. I mean, here's a funny thing to me. I mean, the first 2 episodes of Andor, I'll admit, a little rough, difficult to get into. But once you follow the show, any astute viewer, it doesn't have the pulpy sci-fi goodness that is what we expect from Star Wars. It's a different kind of storytelling. I mean, but the fact that it shows how an empire is born and how a rebellion is born, it's fascinating. and it's beautifully done. It's really well written. It's great. The acting is terrific. Luthen's character and Mon Mothma alone, you know, are fantastic. Who would have thought that Mon Mothma could be both a stateswoman and a sex object and a leader of the rebellion all at once? Come on.
Waiting for you to display that hot toy of Mon Mothma's in her little.
And why haven't they made one? They make everything else. They make how many more Mandalorians are we gonna get? 10? Where's my Mon Mothma hot toy? I want one. Somebody make me a Mon Mothma hot toy.
Did you see her art that RM got from there? That's really impressive. That the Grogu poster that she got. I mean,
she got some great stuff.
If Grogu was religion, that would be like stained glass on the Church of Grogu.
Look, I want my IG-12 with Grogu. I want IG-12 to fight my Gundam, my super robots.
That's your next hot toy.
They haven't announced it yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's going to be here soon. Yeah.
But I am looking forward to the expansion of the observations, just whatever panel. And you're right, it is hard to find someone that's interesting that can convey thoughts and stuff like that on a panel. It's
really, you know, John Campia was really good at that, you know, and it is hard to find. It's hard because, you know, there's a lot of people that I mean, everybody wants to do it, but it's really hard to get people who not only are good at, because there's a lot of people that are good at doing it on their own, but there's not a lot of people that are good at it in a group environment and can navigate that group environment. It's really difficult to do. And it's been hard.
Yeah,
as a matter of
you can, I think. I just, you know, like when John Schnepp had never done anything like that before, but whenever he first started doing that with John, he is instantly, you just wanted to watch everything he had to say.
Well, the thing about John Schnepp is, like, he and I, we've been speaking at science fiction. Well, rest in peace. We've been speaking at science fiction conventions for years. So when you get up in front of people, and he, you know, he was a director and a producer himself, so he could walk into a room and he understood how to do that. It's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to be likable. I mean, I know there's enough people that think I'm a douchebag that write me, and I'm like, I always try and do better, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, and it's hard to find. You know, if you're doing a panel show, you want people, even if there's somebody on the panel that you hate, you want people to like hating them, if that makes any sense. You know, I mean, it's if you want to be somebody who's a contrarian, they have to be a beloved contrarian or a curmudgeonly contrarian, and it's a hard thing to do. And it's like, how would I make my panel show different than John's? What I would want to do is have healthy debate. You know, if we're just all singing the praises of things, I mean, I've always thought Robservations was much more of an op-ed show. And that's what I want to do, is I want to have an op-ed panel show where we discuss and debate. Like, if we were talking Rings of Power, for instance, I wouldn't want everyone to just think, oh, that show sucked. Like, I think that show was a bad show, but I would want people to be able to talk about, well, why it was a bad show and how come it didn't work. But I'd also like some people to be like, well, there's things about it that are good. And there are things about Rings of Power that are good, but there wasn't, where it mattered, the characters in the story, it made no sense. It contradicted Lord of the Rings, and it wasn't good. Like, House of the Dragon is a good story because take the fantasy out of it, and you've got a bunch of scheming motherfuckers dealing with it's Succession, same thing. It's you know, it's classical Shakespearean storytelling put into an environment where dragons are real. So it's you know, it works.
Thanks, Roger. Hey, Rob, we are at the 2-hour mark. So we're usually cutting off the YouTube stream at this point. So we're just going to take a moment here to say our goodbyes to our friends on YouTube. But those of you who are still in the chat, remember that we will continue, although we are ending a little bit early due to Rob's schedule today.
Yeah, I have to leave in about an hour. Okay. So no one else put up your hands, and we'll but I am going on a show right afterwards.
Right.
So
and there will be your observations tonight as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
there'll be our observations tonight as well.
Okay, so to the folks over on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us today. Be on the lookout for those additional shows happening. And Rob, I know he's got guest appearances in this show this afternoon. Also, I think you're going to be on Latino Slant later this week and several other things. So we'll be on the lookout for that. So to our friends on YouTube, we will be saying goodbye. To our friends in the Zoom chat, the chat continues. So we will talk to you soon.